Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome to the show. Allie Ryan joining us here today, our parent coach for the Professional Badass. Yeah, she's our CEO from Allie Ryan Coaching. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for having me. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Just so people know how to reach you right off the top, would you mind sharing your website?
I love that. It's Allie Ryan Coaching, ALIRYAN coaching.com. Right away on there, I have a freebie that says, "Do you hate your kids quiz?" which is a really funny and insightful little quiz that people can take to see which part of parenting they're really struggling with and feeling resentment for. So right away, yeah, just want people to grab that just to see where are they actually struggling.
I'm going to need that. I have a 7 and 9-year-old. I'm going to take that quiz, by the way, and I urge everyone to do the same. And this is great. Let's also get to know you and your company. So you founded this in August 2021. You said it was 2 months prior to finishing up your coaching certification. Could you share a little bit about this and what you've done and your career? Obviously, very big.
Yeah, absolutely. So, prior to going to coaching certification, I was an elder care nurse. I worked with families that were in crisis, honestly, not sure how to handle this next stage of their loved one entering these last phases. And so that was really what prompted me moving into coaching, was knowing that I had already worked with a lot of families in different dynamics.
Yeah.
And seeing that I had ways to really share that message and help people in a totally different way. So I opened my business in August of 2021, really with the mission of helping people address the things that weren't working in their families, and really aiming to help people zoom out and decide really what kind of lifestyle and parenting they wanted to have. I think people forget that their kids grow up and yet they're parents forever. And so really shifting that for them and deciding on purpose what they wanted to do, and that comes along so many things with what's not working. And they start quickly the things that are not working, but mostly that their parenting often is emulating what didn't work for them as kids, and yet they don't know how to stop.
No. I'm here with you, by the way.
Yeah,
and I'm
same.
on the website. I got to take this quiz later. I'm excited.
I was my first client, so that's really where it comes from, is a lot of what I do is from things I struggled with.
Could you share that? Because I know you wanted to be the best mom, don't we all?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, who doesn't? It's such a valiant thing to want. But really what that meant was I was really struggling with perfectionism. I wanted to be the best. I parented like I was a stay-at-home mom, but I was actually working full time and in charge of a lot of things at home and married at that time. And so, as much as we want to be the best of something, really what that means is we're setting the standard that is this high. And if we can't reach that consistently all the time, then we feel really bad about ourselves. And so I was aiming for this and often felt like this, right? Because the standards that I set for myself, my boundaries weren't very good. I felt like everyone could get what they needed, then I might take care of myself. So I really deprioritized myself. I wasn't even on my own to-do list for a long time, and really set the standard of everyone's needs come before mine. And that really, the thing that's tricky is that's a lot of societal messaging that we get too.
Yeah.
So really, there's a lot of breaking through what we're supposed to do versus what really we want to do. Especially as women, I think that's such a common theme of there's this game we think we're supposed to play, or this way we're supposed to show up, and we're miserable.
Yeah.
We're actually just miserable.
And can I ask about your children? How old are they?
Yeah, I have a 17-year-old son. He's graduating high school this spring, 15-year-old daughter and 10-year-old daughter.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I commend you on that. It's a lot. It's overwhelming for a lot of us as parents that work, whether you're or married or single. There's a lot going on. And you mentioned, then you have the whole society expectations, and then the shame and the guilt of work and children. And it's just wow, there's a lot going on here. So, right. And, but it can be, go ahead. You can talk about it. Resolved.
What's coming to mind is when you said that guilt and that shame, is the reason we often have guilt and shame is we think that we're supposed to be doing better, right? We see other parents maybe, they're just acting really well, I think, right? Thinking they have it all together. But really, I think a lot of parents, especially like you said, working parents, are really struggling with this. They feel really torn between work and home, Yeah, but often just feeling really like they have to choose and that they're torn. But really, what we're not questioning and stopping to pause and ask is maybe the system is fucked. Like, excuse my
Oh,
language. Maybe
you could say it. It
okay,
is.
good. The system is really messed up. Maybe it's not me, right? We automatically think we're doing something wrong. We're not stopping to ask, like, what is wrong with the system here? And that's really what I like to help people get to is like, we're operating in a system that doesn't actually allow moms to win. This is not,
Mhm.
this is that we're in a playing with a rigged game. And that's really where my program starts is looking at those societal things at play between parenting and patriarchy to sort of look at those systems that might not even be like it's not meant for us to win. Okay, let's break that down first and
Let's do
foremost.
that. Yep, absolutely. Well, I know we're going to talk more about the one-on-one coaching. You work with parents, families, and so much, but I just want to get a little bit more about you. When you were little, you said you were fascinated, right, by people. You wanted to be a baby doctor. Then what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, what did happen? Well, I actually read all those medical books that my grandma had, and I think some things shifted in and more. My head went more to I want to know what makes people work the way they do, and I think so much of that came from seeing my own family really struggle and seeing like why are these certain people struggling? Now, let me also say this probably came from a place of way too
Yes.
frientified as a kid. I've
Okay. Yeah.
taken on way too much, but really just when I would sit and look around and be like, well, how do people like what things do happen to us as kids that actually impact us as adults? And again, seeing that really play out in nursing and seeing like, getting so much wisdom from folks that were in their 90s or early hundreds and hearing that, it's like all of this tracks. And so I think it's just looking at how these early experiences, they really do track with us. And sometimes we can have our whole life is based on one experience that really gives us so much gives it so much power, maybe not even in mostly a negative
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And like realizing like then the more recently, learning that the brain is actually really plastic, we get to actually shift some of those neural pathways. It's just been like this such a fun journey for me of like from nursing and working with like brains in that area to like shifting into like we get to shift it. We actually get to like we have so much control over
And
what
you've
we're doing.
overcome a lot of obstacles in your field,
Yes.
right? Your field of failure, you mentioned imposter syndrome. Could you just share a little bit
Oh
about
my
that?
gosh.
You're
Yeah.
not perfect. I'm not perfect.
Oh,
You talk about it. We all need some work and could use the help. So I appreciate you
no.
being open and transparent about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, talk about my overcoming my own, the over barriers. First of all, just growing up in a lower middle class home, there wasn't a lot of extra money. There wasn't a lot of extra things at all. And seeing that like there could be more for me, even just knowing that like what I grew up in doesn't necessarily have to mean that's my future. And, it's interesting. I actually had my first kid when I was 20. And what that did for me is it actually spurred a lot of motivation. I was like, I need to get serious. I need to finish school. I need to buy a house. I need to grow up. And that's actually, my kids were, it's funny, they actually fueled me so much at times that maybe they became almost the focal point of me pursuing. But I think that's a really positive thing of having purpose. That really is what that did for me. There's so much that I've done because I've wanted to better myself and I wanted to not repeat the same cycles that I saw. And so what that's meant is getting uncomfortable again and again and pushing past maybe my own limitations of my mind to see that there could be more out there for me. It's just it's like because this is what I get to do with my clients now. It's like I have the best job ever, Jill.
This is amazing. Well, thank you for sharing all this. And I know for today, we also want to focus on, well, unlearning perfectionism, which is not easy, but you're here to help, releasing resentment and redesigning your life in a way that works for them. Could you share how the process works?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I really people come in, they're feeling angry, they're feeling overwhelmed. They think we're gonna like get some quick fixes. And there are things that we get to work on right away. Usually that I kind of call it like this SOS, like what are the things right now that aren't working? We look at overwhelm and look at what are some easy tips to sort of if our brain is overwhelmed, we need to slow it on down, right? So
Mm-hmm.
teaching them some mind and body techniques to really help them get connected back into their bodies,
Okay.
stress techniques, because there's a lot of burnout there. And then I take them more through, emotional regulation. Once they're able to know that they can calm their bodies down and actually connect and feel calmer again, we're able, so often we're trying to problem solve from a place of anxiety or fear or overwhelm. Our brains are overloaded. They can't problem solve, right? So I help them
Mhm.
really calm down first, find safety in their body. And then we get to work with like, okay, what are some of those patriarchal systems at play? What is what does mindful parenting mean for them specifically? What does my work-life balance actually look like for them that they want? Because it's very subjective, right? Like my definition of that might look very different than yours, for instance.
Yeah.
And we have to really let it be that we have our own way that we want to do things. And that's sort of where it ties into redesigning their life is we have a lot of, Instagram kind of idea of what our family is supposed to look like. And it's not about that. It's about figuring out
No.
what really works for you and your family. And so really helping folks create that with parenting values on purpose, with coming up with what are the boundaries that really matter for them, learning how to resolve conflict with their family, because that's a big thing is knowing we can have conflict and disagree, but no one is going anywhere. That's a really important thing. And this is then where it ties into like, again, redesigning. What do they really want their life to look like? And amidst that, preparing and setting that journey up for as their kids get older, because parenting doesn't get easier necessarily. It just changes. So really helping them equip themselves with the tools they need to be ready for that journey as their kids continue up into teenage years where we really need some tools to work with that.
Oh, can't wait. I'm in the thick of it. I'm in the middle of it, right? So I have 7 and 9-year-olds. So, all right. But you have the teenagers. So, wow, 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 wow.
Yeah.
Let's just remind everyone at this point how we can contact you if you don't mind sharing the website, phone number, social media pages, and then we'll
Yeah.
continue the conversation.
Totally love it. Yep. So Instagram, my handle is Allie_Ryan_coaching. Same website, Allie Ryan Coaching. Try to make it really easy for everyone. And that's ALIRYAN coaching.
Perfect. And also got to point out, you mentioned in your notes that your children also have ADHD. Do you as well? Don't we
Yes.
all?
Yes.
But
Yes.
that is a superpower, you said, right? It could, right? You got to
Yeah.
navigate the world in a different way, and you can work with people that are neurodivergent as well.
Absolutely. Yep. That's a big part that I've learned about not only myself, but about my kids too, is it takes, we are also different and even people that aren't necessarily neurodivergent, each have different learning styles. And so I've really taken that as, especially working with elders for so many years, I can work with a lot of different learning styles.
Yep.
We have a lot of different tools that we work with, and helping kids or parents that have kids that are neurodivergent has been a big thing that I've been doing too, because so often what we see is like, they're just not behaving, right? They're just not acting like other kids, and really helping them
You're
break
like,
down like what's really going on there.
mhm.
What is the need behind maybe some of those behaviors that just aren't actually very fun, but noting like, that's how we can be kind of a detective with our kids a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. And don't forget the Do I Hate My Kids quiz. People are just tuning in
Don't
saying,
forget.
what? You
Yeah.
have to take it. How long will it take to figure out on the
Oh.
website? Again, AllieRyanCoaching.com. How long does it?
Yep. Oh, it's 30 seconds. It's really quick. It's just a quick
Perfect.
set of questions and they're funny. I mean, one of them is I stay up, I'm up at 2 a.m. Googling parenting advice while questioning all of my life decisions. I mean, who hasn't done that at least once?
Yeah, it's so true. So the work you're doing, could you share now how you're working with someone to really achieve the goals that they want to? Because right now, as a mom, sometimes things are hard, right? And
Yeah.
our priorities are not in the best interest of our children's priorities. Things shift and change. Could you make us feel better about this, that it's okay?
Yes. Well, here's what I always like to back up a little bit, because when we have, I think as parents, we're really the worst thing to be called, especially as a woman these days, is like selfish, right? Like that's the worst. And so asking for someone to invest in themselves really does
Mhm.
push upon like that they need to do something for themselves, and also that guilt. And so I like to just step back and be like, what are you trying to model for your kids? Are you trying to model that you were there all the time, that you had no life of your own, that you had no friends? Is that what you're trying to model? Or are you trying to model something a little different, where you actually show them that they can choose themselves, they can prioritize themselves? Because kids, they're such sponges. It's not just about what we're saying, they're watching us. And I always like to remind my clients, like, you choosing you, a 30-minute coaching session with me, that makes a difference. They're seeing that you care about yourself. They then see that they actually get to spend time and care for themselves too. Like everything we do, it's almost like this infinity of like what we do impacts them. And so coaching, what they get to do is they get to choose themselves. They get to let there be maybe a little guilt of like, I'm choosing myself. But really what that ties into is like, they have had themselves off the priority list for so long that like that little act of choosing themselves can feel like a lot. And eventually this grows into
Yeah.
like some of my clients taking solo trips for the first time in 10 years, actually going on a kid-free vacation, things that like should have never gone away, but that became like this total inaccessibility and possibility suddenly as soon as we had children.
That is so true. It is. My goodness, how things change. But you're telling me it can get better and it will, right?
It can
You
get
got to
better.
have someone on your side. How does it work to work with you as the coach to explain the process here, if you don't mind?
Yeah. It's so easy. I mean, truly, this is what we do. People listen to me. It's usually through podcasts that people find me. They schedule, it's really easy. You go on my website, you click schedule a connection call. You can schedule a 30-minute call with me. And I just like to hear what's going on for you. For me, I'm just such a connector. It's like, let me just hear your story. And in that, I'm already usually hearing a couple things that even in that moment, I can offer them. Oh, I like to call myself like the perspective shift, the queen of perspective shift. So a little mindset reframe, a little offering, just the way that they're seeing things is from this side. What if we look at this side?
Mm-hmm.
Working with me is really easy. Right now, I have one-on-one clients that I'm taking, but I'm actually almost full up. So I'm creating a group program that is actually going to be able to help a lot more parents, really just creating a group program. Same sort of idea where we're going to work together for 12 weeks and we're going to address these things in a group. Parenting and patriarchy. How do we emotionally regulate? Creating support for each other because so much of it is we're so isolated. So I'm actually have been doing some of these groups in person and seeing already the difference, and parents realize they're not alone, right? Because so much of it we feel so alone. And so really creating these connections for folks that they can share, we can talk about what's working, what's not working, take them through this journey of really putting themselves back on their own list of things to care about.
Oh, I know. It feels so good, right? But you were at a time in your life as a parent where this happened to you, right? Could you share just a little more of your story, how you felt going through this process?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, to back up a little bit, I've also, have been divorced, not only once, but twice. So there's been many times that I've had to rebuild my life, rebuild my heart, rebuild like my identity in some ways. And at the time, it felt like, I know what it's like to be hopeless. I know what it's like to feel defeated and to feel like I cannot get out of this 9 to 5 schedule. There's possibly no time for myself. And I just want you to know it might feel really hopeless right now, but I promise you that is maybe just right now, and that is not how it's going to be forever. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And
Yes.
parenting is hard. Let's just call it what it is. Like we are raising our next set of generation in this world. It's kind of hard sometimes. Like, and at the same time, it maybe doesn't have to be as hard as we're making it. Maybe we can release the pressure that we're putting on ourselves. And with releasing some of that pressure, maybe we actually get to show up how we want and actually connect in the ways we want rather than the way we're supposed to.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Schedule that connection call again. You can go right to the website, AllieRyanCoaching.com. We still have more time in the show. Just want to remind you all who we're talking to. And what else did you want to make sure we get across for today's show?
Yeah, well, I just think it would be really fun, real quick, to just go over one thing I like to do with my clients. One of the steps in my balanced parenting journey here is learning boundaries. And so I think it could be fun just to have a real quick little explanation of like how boundaries actually help bring people closer instead of pushing people away. What do you think, Jill?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Awesome. So one thing I like to say is like boundaries are just the way that we communicate our needs via words and actions. They are just a perimeter where we establish with ourselves and others. So it's not just about telling other people what to do. It's actually about holding yourself accountable for creating your own life. We got 3 types of boundaries. I'm going to go through this quickly. The first one is external boundary. The second is a psychological boundary. And the third is a containing boundary. The first one, external boundary, is basically our way of saying no, right? Saying, I'd love to talk to you, but I won't do that we won't talk while you're raising your voice. It's essentially a way of saying no to something. That's called an external boundary. Number 2, psychological boundary. This is the separation between you and me. And this is where I teach my clients the Jello wall concept, which is when we're talking with someone, we have that Jello wall. And imagine if someone says something you don't like, I want you to ask yourself 2 questions. Is this true or not true? And is this about me or not me? And usually when we have that little Jello wall, we can quickly ascertain like maybe the way that they're acting isn't about me. And maybe it's
Ah,
not even true. Therefore, I'm not taking that on. And how freeing does that sound if like maybe you can have a conversation with a friend or your kids or even your boss and know that not everything they say has to penetrate. It's like, I don't know. I just think that's amazing. It's like totally life-changing.
I
Number
agree.
three is the containing boundary. That's the one that stops you from acting out. That is,
Okay.
I will not allow myself to lash out or yell at my kids, for instance. And so knowing when you set that boundary with yourself, you are deciding, I am not going to act that way and doing everything you can to act in alignment with that. And that often helps me anyway, stay out of the hot water sometimes with pushing, because I don't want to lash or yell at my kids. But I also know that that's within me and knowing that I'm really going to do everything I can to not behave that way because I don't want to.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I got it. All right. This is good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So that was my fast track on boundaries. Any questions?
Perfect. No, oh my gosh, I have millions of questions. No, no, you're very thorough. It's true. It's true. Boundaries. We all have them. We have to work with them, but no, that boundaries can be crossed the right way. And okay, good, good. What else? What else?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing I like to ask people too is a lot of times we have a lot of fears with setting boundaries. We think people are going to go away. And I think that that comes from, there's a lot of reasons, but I think really looking at like the people in our lives, we want them to know what actually works for us and doesn't. And we want kids to know that they can set boundaries. And so this is not only a skill for you, but it's really to teach
Hmm.
your kids that they have a lot of say in how people treat them or not and how they choose to be treated or not.
Yep.
This has been one of the best skills to teach my kids, and I use this again, I walk my talk. So this is literally what I teach them. And teaching them that Jello boundary has been really helpful, especially at school with my two high schoolers and an almost middle schooler. Learning that they don't actually have to take on what other people say to them has it's really shifted their perspective of when people say things that aren't nice, we can acknowledge it wasn't nice, but we can also say, and that's not about me. And that's like really powerful.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. We love this. All right, we still have only 2 minutes left in the show. I can't believe that the time goes so quickly. So I just want to make sure we're covering everything that's possible for today. Allie Ryan, what else do we have on tap?
Well, I mean, I think just hearing, I really want, to me, a big part of it is like, let's break some cycles, people. Like, we know it's not working. We know
Yeah.
it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Taking that next step can be really easy. Just scheduling that call with me, non-obligation. What I like to do, I always say, I like for people to leave that call a little more recent, a little more resourced, and a lot more inspired.
Yep, like you mentioned, the pressure you feel for maybe juggling and trying to be a better parent, right? Trying, to fit in with the other parents. Maybe you're tired of
And
having the
keep up
same
with them.
conversation. Exactly. And all this pressure and this guilt.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of common issues for your clients. And if you are listening today and find yourself in any of these situations, guess what? It may be time to book this call with you. And by the way, is the initial consult a free call?
It's totally free. Yep. I call it a
Awesome.
connection call. I just want to
Yes,
hear your
that's
story,
what I
hear
was
what's
reading on the
going on.
website. Connection
Yeah.
call. I like it. Or discovery call, we call it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Yep. Just to learn more about me. And again, I've got great testimonials on my website as well. I've got a lot of people that have had some amazing transformations with me. So take a look. I've got some great freebies on there. And again, really easy to schedule a connection call with me.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Let's remind everyone how we can make that call. Tell us all the ways we can contact you and
Yes.
connect.
Instagram.com/Allie_Ryan_coaching. My website, www.allieryancoaching.com.
All right. Allie, thank you so much. Pleasure getting to know you today and
Oh,
excited to have you here to help so
yeah.
many of us parents going through a lot of the shame and guilt that we go through. So, as a coach, reach out to her. And is there any specific packages or programs that you offer or any current classes? Is it just one-on-one or do you have group sessions too?
Yeah, so right now I have one-on-one, and actually starting in April, I'm going to start having group sessions where we are
Cool.
connect groups of parents that are coming together because we are not alone and we need to actually be
Yeah.
coming together and talking about this. So group starting in April. So please be looking out for the news on that. And actually you can subscribe to my email list and you will be getting the most updated news about this group that is starting. Super affordable, super accessible, really the goal is just we want to be helping parents. There are lots of parents that need help out there that think they're alone, and they do not have to be alone in this. It's a journey. We need to do it together, y'all.
Great. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you here, getting to know you, and looking forward to the next time we connect as well. Don't forget, take the quiz, ladies and gentlemen. I will be doing that too. We'll talk next time,
Yep.
okay?
Thanks, Jill.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.